Imagine a spider, carefully weaving its web, beautiful, intricate, and deadly. Much like that spider's web, narcissistic manipulation is an art form of calculated deception, designed to entrap those who never saw the danger coming. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of humanity's most fascinating yet disturbing psychological phenomena: how narcissists identify, exploit, and manipulate the vulnerabilities of others. We've all encountered them, perhaps in our families, workplaces, or romantic relationships. That person who initially seemed too good to be true, showering you with attention and understanding, only to slowly transform into someone unrecognizable. Someone who left you questioning your own reality, your worth, and your sanity. Let's begin with understanding the narcissist's radar for vulnerability. Like emotional bloodhounds, they possess an uncanny ability to detect psychological weak points in others. They're drawn to people who radiate kindness, empathy, and most importantly, those carrying unhealed wounds from their past. These qualities aren't weaknesses. They're beautiful human traits. But in the hands of a narcissist, they become tools for exploitation. Consider Sarah, a young woman who grew up with an emotionally distant father. When she met James, he seemed to understand her pain perfectly. He mirrored her experiences, shared similar stories, and promised to be different from her father. What Sarah didn't realize was that James had carefully studied her behavior, noting how her eyes would light up at the slightest bit of paternal validation. He stored this information like ammunition for future use. The exploitation often begins so subtly that most victims don't notice it happening. It starts with what psychologists call love bombing, an overwhelming display of affection, attention, and understanding. Think of it as emotional overfeeding. They stuff you so full of validation that you become addicted to their presence. They become your sun, and suddenly, your whole world revolves around them. But just as the sun can nurture life, it can also burn. Once a narcissist has secured their position in your life, the real manipulation begins. They employ a sophisticated arsenal of psychological tactics. Gaslighting becomes their weapon of choice, making you question your memories, perceptions, and judgment. That never happened, they'll say, or you're too sensitive, until you begin to doubt your own mind. The narcissist's true artistry lies in their ability to weaponize your vulnerabilities against you. Remember Sarah's need for paternal validation. James learned to withhold his affection strategically, creating an emotional drought that left Sarah desperate for the smallest drop of approval. He'd criticize her in ways that echoed her childhood wounds, then swoop in as the savior who could heal them. What makes this manipulation so effective is the narcissist's ability to maintain plausible deniability. Their attacks are often wrapped in a veneer of concern or tough love. "I'm just trying to help you become better," they'll say. Or, "If you really loved me, you'd understand." These phrases are drops of poison coated in honey, designed to slip past your defenses. They excel at creating intermittent reinforcement, a psychological principle that creates the strongest bonds of addiction. One day they're your greatest champion, the next your harshest critic. This unpredictability keeps their victims in a constant state of emotional hypervigilance, always trying to gauge which version of the narcissist they'll encounter. The exploitation goes beyond emotional manipulation. Narcissists often target their victim support systems, slowly isolating them from friends and family. They plant seeds of doubt about loved ones' intentions, create artificial conflicts, and position themselves as the only reliable presence in their victim's life. It's like watching a skilled chess player, always thinking several moves ahead. Perhaps most insidiously, narcissists exploit their victims' desire to see the best in others. They know that human beings are naturally inclined to give second chances, to believe in change, to trust in the power of love. They use this beautiful aspect of human nature against their victims, turning their capacity for forgiveness into chains that bind them to the relationship. The financial exploitation often follows the emotional. Once they've established control, Narcissists may begin to drain their victims' resources, always with seemingly legitimate reasons or promises of repayment. They create situations where their victims feel obligated to provide financial support, using guilt and manipulation to maintain access to these resources. But there's hope in understanding these patterns. Knowledge is power, and recognizing these tactics is the first step toward breaking free from narcissistic exploitation. Pay attention to how people make you feel about yourself. Do they build you up, or do they leave you feeling confused and worthless? Do they respect your boundaries, or do they treat them as obstacles to overcome? Remember that narcissists target strong people, individuals with a capacity for deep love, forgiveness, and empathy. These aren't weaknesses to be ashamed of. They're strengths that have been twisted against you. The very qualities that make you vulnerable to narcissistic exploitation are the same qualities that make you human. Healing from narcissistic abuse requires rebuilding trust, not just in others but in yourself. It means learning to recognize that the shame you carry isn't yours to bear. It belongs to the person who exploited your beautiful human qualities for their own gain. As we conclude, remember this. Narcissistic exploitation isn't about your inadequacies. It's about their emptiness. Like a black hole, they consume others' light because they cannot generate their own. Your vulnerability isn't weakness. It's proof of your capacity for genuine connection. And while that capacity may have been exploited, it can also be your pathway to healing and forming authentic relationships built on mutual respect and true empathy. The next time you encounter someone who seems too perfect, who mirrors your pain too precisely, who rushes to claim the role of your savior, pause. Remember the spider's web, beautiful but deadly. Trust your instincts, maintain your boundaries, and know that you deserve relationships that celebrate your strength rather than exploit your vulnerabilities. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourself.